Last year in 2025, I got better at guitar than I ever thought possible. For example, with my alternate picking, I went from 80 beats per minute to 130 beats per minute. I also learned to play one of the hardest Van Halen solos, which was a lifelong dream of mine. And I just gained the overall skills to finally be able to write solos like my favorite guitarists, like John Petrucci. But here's the thing, it didn't take hours of practice a day. It actually only took an average of 1 hour of practice per day, using the blueprint that I'm about to give you. This is a daily regimen, and if you follow it, you will level up in 2026 more than you ever have on guitar, and you will 100% break through the intermediate plateau. So here's the first thing that I did every day. Number one, I separated my practice into different techniques. Like one practice session dedicated to just alternate picking, one session dedicated just to legato, etc. Now, why would I do this? Well, it's because focusing on one skill at a time reduces something called cognitive load, letting your brain give full attention to the correct movements of that specific skill. And this is really important because each skill requires attention to different details. For example, alternate picking is one single skill, but it's actually a skill that's made up of a bunch of different subset skills. And to master it, you have to master those subset skills. So I hyper obsessed over what it takes to master each individual skill separately. Legato, alternate picking, sweep picking, economy picking, etc. Think of it like this, a guitar solo is just a combination of a bunch of different skills. Sometimes it has legato with alternate picking, sometimes it has some sweeps or tapping in it as well. And if you suck at guitar solos, you're more likely to master them if you master one technique at a time. So each day, pick 1, 2, maybe 3 different skills that are really important to you and focus on those in different practice sessions. They don't have to be long practice sessions. They can be just 20-minute practice sessions for each skill. The second thing I did every day was I did regressions. See, most people don't have the patience to reverse engineer problems in their technique. They just mindlessly repeat stuff over and over, hoping that it will get better. I know I used to do the same thing. But the best guitarists in the world, and I've interviewed some of the best guitarists in the world, they do something called regressions. They don't necessarily call it that, but that's what I call it. In other words, they regress techniques or break them down to their subset techniques and master those one at a time. For example, like we talked about, alternate picking is just a combination of a few subset skills. Right hand movement, string transitioning or string crossing, pick slanting, synchronization. So if I were to master these individually one by one and then put them together, there's no way that I can fail. And this is what I did with a really fast alternate picking run from Paul Gilbert's Technical Difficulties. This run was always impossible for me, but through regressions, I was able to get it at full speed. So I'm going to break down how I did this. So remember that a regression is when you break down a technique into its smaller subset techniques and master those one at a time. So I did this with the Paul Gilbert run. I first recognized that the run is in sextuplets, or in other words, 6 notes per beat. And the whole run lasts for 8 beats. So this is really important to know because here's what I did first. I regressed the alternate picking to its main subset skill, which is fast and efficient right hand movement, isolated from the left hand. So to train this, I started actually with just one single string with the right hand only. And like I said, these are sextuplets that go across 8 beats. So I first made sure that I could do that on one single string. Sextuplets with a metronome at my high speed across 8 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I focused on wrist movement, staying relaxed, and having good, efficient, clean technique with smooth pick strokes. Think about it, if I can't cleanly and smoothly play sextuplets with my right hand only across those 8 beats just on one single string, how can I expect myself to add in the left hand and start crossing all the strings with all the notes perfectly? So after that, the next subset skill I targeted, or the next regression that I targeted, was string transitioning or string crossing. I started crossing strings one string at a time, still with the right hand isolated. So I started with the first string transition from here. So I started there, obviously only with the right hand though, so. And then once that felt good, then I added that next string transition. And I added one string transition at a time until I could do the whole thing with my right hand only across the whole sequence, across the full 8 beats. Because each string transition presented its own problem, and most people, they don't zoom in close enough to very specific string transitions to work out how can I fix my pick hitting the string or missing the string here. That sort of attention to detail is crucial in gaining skills that you've never been able to gain before. So once I could cross all those strings with my right hand only, I moved to the next skill, or the next regression, which was left hand movement. To work on this, I repeated the previous steps that I just did, but with the left hand now in the picture. I focused on synchronization, adding one string at a time, and here's how it looked. I started with the first 3 notes, and just repeated those on one single string to see if I can do that at my top speed with the metronome across all 8 of those beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And of course I did this with the metronome. Then once I built that synchronization and that relaxed good technique on one single string, I added one string at a time, just like I did with the right hand. So to recap, in other words, I regressed alternate picking to its basic subset skills. Right hand movement on one single string, string transitioning with just the right hand, adding in the left hand on one single string, focusing on synchronization, economical movements. And then with the left hand involved, I added in string transitioning with the left hand. And in this way, I was able to play something that I had never been able to play. I was able to break through my intermediate plateau with my alternate picking. The third thing I did every day was I practiced at the edge of my ability. You see, there's a sweet spot where the most progress actually takes place. And that is right at the edge of your current ability. See, most people practice at random speeds without a metronome, often way too fast, fluctuating from slow to fast, from beginning to end of the solo over and over. And this is why they don't progress. This is why I wasn't progressing. But to break through the intermediate plateau with certain skills of mine, I started practicing at the edge of my ability every day. And that's when everything changed. So what is the edge of ability? The edge of ability is just the metronome speed at which the solo that you're working on just starts to fall apart. Not too fast, not too slow. And there's no way to measure the edge of your ability or to measure this speed unless you're actually using a metronome. So you gotta use a metronome every day if you wanna break through the intermediate plateau. Otherwise, it's too easy to fluctuate in and out of random speeds, and it kills your progress because, again, the most progress takes place right at the edge of your ability. It's that sweet spot where it's still doable to reverse engineer stuff and fix mistakes, just like I showed you in the previous step. The next thing that I did every single day was I stayed consistent all year, no matter what. Look, it wasn't easy. Last year I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, which was a living hell and still sometimes is. Every day was difficult just to function. I would wake up 17 times an hour on average because I wasn't breathing. And on top of that, I have OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder, which also makes life almost impossible at times. So how did I stay consistent through this sort of hellscape that I was living in? Well, it's been years of work in progress, but I started to finally grasp the idea of something called stoicism. And to me, stoicism is the cure for inconsistency and laziness, or not even laziness, but just the inability to follow through because life gets really hard. So stoicism is the practice of focusing your energy only on what you can control. And that reframe of what you can actually control as opposed to what you can't control is really important. It's training yourself to do what you said you were going to do regardless of how you feel. It's not about being emotionless or tough. It's actually just about training yourself to not let moods or feelings or discomfort decide your behavior for you. So most people are inconsistent for one reason. They want to feel like doing the work, and they wait to feel like doing it before they actually do it. But at its core, Stoicism says if you don't feel motivated or inspired, you can still control your effort no matter what. And every day that felt impossible for me to function, and I still practiced guitar that day, I started realizing that this was true. Even better, I started realizing that I didn't die or get hurt, or things weren't necessarily worse because I did it. And in this way, I started sending a signal to my brain every day that I'm actually safe even when I do something that feels impossible or too overwhelming. I started realizing that I was much stronger than I thought. And this is the key for overcoming inconsistency. So that said, I hope this principle of stoicism helps you. Another thing that I did every day that I didn't mention in this video was speed training every day. And this is crucial. I just didn't have time to put it in this video. So if you want to learn more about speed training and how to develop speed, click this video right here.